Hello, everyone. You're listening to Her Voice, a podcast from The Choice, the media powered by ESCP Business School and dedicated to decision makers. Today, you'll hear the voice of Sandra Rey, a talented social entrepreneur with an expertise in industrial design and sustainable lighting. If you want to find out how glow-in-the-dark bacteria may one day replace regular city lights, stick with us. My name is Lara. I'm the Digital Communication Manager at ESCP Business School, and I'm hosting this podcast with my colleague and Brand Content Manager, Emily.
Hi, everyone. We are super excited to start this podcast adventure, which is guided by one really important mission: to give the mic to women experts and listen to what they have to say. Today, we've invited a special guest to talk about her creative solution for something we often take for granted: lighting. In Europe, lighting is key to addressing energy poverty and making our cities and buildings more sustainable. In the words of Frans Timmermans, the Executive Vice President for the European Green Deal, we want everyone in Europe to have a home they can light, heat, or cool without breaking the bank or breaking the planet. So, how we light our buildings, homes, and cities will be an increasingly important question as the EU works to be carbon neutral by 2050. When talking about sustainable lighting, we often think of LEDs. But what if nature could give us another option?
So our first guest, Sandra Rey, is the founder and CEO of Glowee, a startup with the ambition to revolutionize the way we light up our spaces and cities thanks to bioluminescence. Sandra holds a master's degree in industrial design as well as certificates in social entrepreneurship from ESCP Business School and INSEAD. She was featured on the prestigious MIT Technology Review's Innovators Under 35 list and Forbes 30 Under 30. So hello, Sandra. Thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to have you as our first guest. How are you doing? How are you keeping up during these difficult times?
I'm okay.
Great.
I look forward to what's coming next and don't look at the past, so that's cool.
You're our first guest on Her Voice, and we would love to know more about you. So could you tell us about the woman behind the voice?
Yes, so I'm a 30-year-old mom. First, I have been doing some design studies. I've always dreamed of doing something with my hand and something that's mixed creativity with giving shapes and reality to things. So I did some industrial design studies. And during that master degree in design, I discovered that design was more than just designing objects, but was about designing the future, the system, the ecosystems of everything. And I had the chance to realize student contests during this master degree that was about biology. That's where I discovered the greatness of nature and what it has to offer us. And that's where Glowee's adventure started almost 7 years ago now.
So in talking about nature and what Laura announced in our intro, we're talking clearly about one particular aspect: bioluminescence. So diving a little deeper into that, from what I've understood, bioluminescence is the light produced by chemical reactions in a living organism. I think for most of us, when we hear that, we kind of think of those animals that live at the deepest part of the ocean, or I guess maybe fireflies. But I'm sure what I'm saying is a big oversimplification. Could you explain bioluminescence to those listening to the podcast?
Well, actually, bioluminescence is the fact that some species can produce light, biologically speaking. So, as you said, it is a biochemical reaction that happens in nature. It happens in animals like fireflies, glowworms, or mushrooms on Earth. It's pretty rare on the surface. But if you look at what's going on in the ocean, more than 80% of the marine organisms that we know are actually able to produce bioluminescence. So this is something that is very ordinary to do that light. And so basically they have genes in their DNA that can produce two molecules that mix together with oxygen to create a photon. So the light reaction. So it's a reaction that is totally independent from the sun or from external light. It's really an internal thing that's going on. And sometimes it is inside the DNA of the organisms, like fireflies. And sometimes it is in the DNA of some microorganisms, like bacteria, for example. And those bacteria are living inside fish or squid and allow these animals to actually produce light. And at Glowee, we are working with this little bacteria to produce our bioluminescence raw material.
How did you first come across bioluminescence, and what made you think, yes, this could be an alternative light source?
When I was a student, I had this contest about biology. We started working on light and we saw these videos on deep ocean creatures. And we were like, okay, so these creatures are able to produce biological light. We have lighting problems, issues in terms of environmental impact of lighting. And in the same times, we have technologies, and I will say biotechnologies, that allow us to basically imitate what these species are able to do. And bioluminescence have been known for more than 30 years in the lab. So we know how to do this biological light. And so we were like, okay, so if this fish can do that and we have the tools, why not work on that to solve the big issues of the environmental impact of lighting? So that's how it started, with a nice PowerPoint presentation and nice Photoshop pictures, which we basically won the contest. And then the adventure started here.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's impressive to realize that, you can be inspired by something like this in nature that seems so common, but at the same time, we don't know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
And you bring up, of course, the environmental aspect of and the impact of this technology and this potential for light sources. When you've talked about this on your TED Talks and things like that, we come back to that environmental impact. And according to the most recent numbers from the United Nations, it looks that lighting currently accounts for over 15% of the world's electricity consumption and 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It's clear that these figures are encouraging cities to adopt more sustainable practices, to consider alternatives. Could you tell us a little bit more about this creative solution that you found? What are the advantages of bioluminescence for lighting?
So if I can just come back to the numbers that you gave, it only concerns the electricity consumption, so basically the consumption phase of the lights. And we always look at only when we consume these products. But at the end of the story, these products are produced in very polluting ways. And although the end of life is causing a lot of problems because most of the components are non-recyclable. So when you look at and you have an approach like we have using living things and nature, then the approach is much more global and has to do with the entire life cycle of the solution. That's also something that we defend with using bioluminescence, is that we can produce a biosourced and biodegradable light. So that will make the difference in the future to stop consuming limited resources from the planet and stop producing waste that we don't know what to do with and that create pollution. So we really look at the problem with a global vision on the environmental impact and not just the use of electricity, for example. So that was the first point. So and when you see about how light is today used in the cities, with all the municipalities that we talk to, we realize that they don't really know why do they light up so much with huge intensities. They tend to know now that it has a huge impact, both, of course, on the bill, but also on biodiversity and on the attractiveness of the cities and the comfort of the citizens that live in it. So light is a universal need. We need it. The solution cannot be just to switch off every light. And the tests that have been conducted in that direction show that it won't work because it creates darkness in the cities and then a feeling of insecurity and things like that. So they know that they have to find alternative solution that will be more respectful for the environment, create more well-being in the cities. So what we offer with bioluminescence is the possibility to think about lighting in a different way. This light is not a punctual light like a bulb. It's a liquid, so it can take different shapes. So it's also a way to create new ways of lighting, not just by using the traditional lamp posts, reducing the global intensities while still creating this feeling of comfort and well-being. So that's really a philosophy behind lighting that we work on with the clients. It's how should we light the cities tomorrow and not how to replace just a bulb. And that's a hard part, but that's also the interesting part by using bioluminescence.
Yeah. It's clear that this is part of a broader discussion on what is the purpose of light and what effect are we trying to have in our cities, in our homes as well, and in our other spaces that we're lighting. How, you mentioned that you can use it in a different variety of formats. This allows a lot more flexibility. Could you tell us a bit more on the technical side, how Glowee's lights work?
So what we do is that we use a marine bioluminescence bacteria. So we have a big selection phase, then we improve them in the lab to make them more efficient. But at the end of the story, we have a nutritive medium, which is basically like seawater, where we put these bacteria, and the product that we offer is kind of an aquarium. So the goal is that the bacteria will stay alive, will keep reproduce, and there is always new population of bacteria able to produce this biological light. So the system is fed by these nutrients in order to keep this culture of bacteria grow and be able to produce light. So that's also a very new approach in terms of how do we keep this light alive? How do we create a new link to that living systems? And that's also something that's interesting for us to work on how to also make people more responsible of what they consume by realizing that this is living and we have to keep them in good faith in order to have our light produced.
How long does a light keeps glowing? How often do you have to replace them?
So the system is linked to the water network. So the water is coming in and we put nutrients. So that's the maintenance part. We have to put somehow nutrients in the system. So depending on how do we stock it, then it can be every day with very small installation or every several months with different ones. But as soon as the system is fed and there is no, we say contamination, which means that there is no other kind of bacteria or microbe that enter the system that are not bioluminescent and basically get fed with our nutritive medium and make our bioluminescent bacteria disappear, then it will last forever. So I don't want to say it's forever because it's never forever. Contaminations happen, then there is no nutrients and there is a problem happening. But the good thing is that we only need few milliliters of bacteria to start the system. So that's what we do at the beginning. And then as soon as we have these nutrients coming in, then the culture will grow and keep glowing.
Oh, it's like an ecosystem in your own light bulb, exactly like an aquarium. Yeah. I have a really simple question. Just to understand, how can you turn that on and off like you do light bulbs in your house?
Well, the way we can turn light on and off is playing with oxygen. So we have air coming inside the system because, as I mentioned, it's a chemical reaction that needs oxygen to happen. So when you cut this air flow, then the lights immediately switch off because the bioluminescence reaction is not happening. So this is a way to switch off. We have to realize that bioluminescence is a light of the night. It's not a light that you will see under the sun anyway. So the goal is more to say how can we save the energy of our bacteria during the day so that they don't produce light to not use their own energy and give it at night.
I understand that you have some corporate partners already using this technology. Do you have some examples of how it can be used today?
Yeah. So our goal is to put bioluminescence in the cities. So we're working on that. We're working on the first pilot project with the city of Rambouillet next to Paris in putting the first urban furniture, bioluminescent urban furniture live. So this will happen in the next month.
Wow.
So we are working very hard on it because it's kind of challenging to put this technology on the outside because of the variation temperatures, because of the fact that we have to have costs that are very competitive.
Yeah.
So that's the next step, and that's the ambition of Glowee. And what we've done so far, so we've started with doing a lot of ephemeral installations for events with a more pedagogical point of view in order to explain what it is, to show what it is, and to explain why it is important to change the way we do that now. And what we've also done is that we've realized that this light is so relaxing when you see it, and it's so fascinating. And we've created with that relaxation experience room, which is called the Glowee room, that is installed already in an hotel in France. And the goal is to basically prototype the fact that we can have bioluminescence installation remotely controlled and working continuously. So that was the first step that we did at the beginning of 2020 with this Glowee room.
I wanted to know a little bit more of that wellness side of bioluminescence and this Glow Zen room.
So light has a very, very important affects a lot us humans. We are basically our days and night are the rhythm come from the light. So light has a huge impact on us. And what we figure out with bioluminescence is that first the color, which is basically a blue green blue-green color, it is known for its relaxing properties. So that I think the first thing is about this color of light is affecting our brain as a relaxation tool. But also what we figure out is that this light is very smooth. So you can basically look at it and see what's around without being tired or affecting your brain. And you really realize that when you're in a room with bioluminescence, you stayed for 15 minutes and then you go outside with normal light and then you're like, okay, that's awful.
See the difference.
Yeah. And that's something that's interesting in the relaxation experience is that you can basically see things, but without being disturbed or tired or from either your eyes or your brain. And that's also something that's very interesting. It basically reproduces the phenomenon when you can look at a fire for several hours without doing anything, just to be fascinated. And I think it gives the same impression. And I think this is also because you know that it's living, that it's coming from nature, and it gives you very nice images of fireflies, forest of fireflies, or bioluminescent waves. And the fact that you create this link to nature is something that is known to be relaxing and help your wellness. We need nature to basically live. So that's something that's very important. It's called the biophilic relation to nature. And this is principle that are applied also on architecture, urbanisms and stuff. And this is something that's important to create this link to nature to feel good.
It seems like the science and tech industries still have an issue with gender diversity. For example, as of 2019, only 11% of executive positions in Silicon Valley companies were held by women. However, by choice or by default, a growing number of women decide to become self-employed and start their own business. But female entrepreneurs still face many challenges linked to gender discrimination, such as the struggle to be taken seriously and the difficulty to raise funds. A 2019 Columbia Business School study actually found that female-led ventures are 63% less likely to receive venture capital funding. Sandra, despite the obstacles you may have faced along the way, you started your own biotech company. What convinced you to do so? And what steps did you go through to build your business?
So after the contest in 2013, we had a lot of medias coming in because of we won the contest. So something was created like a wave of attraction. A lot of clients came, a lot of prospects came, cities, energy companies and stuff. They came to us and say, okay, where can we buy that? And we're like, it's a PowerPoint presentation. So that the idea started to grow, and we kind of realized that there was distraction and this need from the clients to change the way they light. And then I did the certificate at ESCP Business School. And what this education gave me is the fact to say, okay, I can take 6 months to try to do something. Before that, I was like, okay, I need to find a job. I almost didn't do the ESCP business program because I thought I had to find a job right after my design degree. So that gave me the thing saying, okay, 6 months is nothing. And I can give the time to see if something was possible. So after that, I met someone that basically offered us an incubation program with a lab bench, which was something that we needed. At this point, I had never seen bioluminescence in my life. I was talking about it for a year already, but I had never seen bioluminescence. And so I decided to join the program. I hired a biotech intern. And he did a good job, I guess. I really thought that in 4 months, I will have an industrial product and we'll be able to sell it to the world. That's not what happened. I learned what biotech is. And basically, I knew that it was going to take longer than I expected. But the traction was still going on and a lot of things was happening. And I was like, okay, I cannot stop after that. So we did this first proof of concept, which was basically having a bit of light that we needed to be doing 50 minutes in a very, very dark room to see. But it was here and it was exciting. And I was like, okay, something is happening. I have to give me another chance. So then I decided to keep going. I met someone who told me that if I was not able to find money, investment for the next 15 days for 50,000 euros, I would not convince anyone. And I'm a bad entrepreneur. So I took it very seriously, which was not the point, I guess. But I kind of did a personal loan And then a few weeks later, I did another contest, a 1-minute pitch in the elevator of the Eiffel Tower. And then I won 100,000 euro, which was basically the start of everything. So what I did is that I took all the opportunities that I saw. So opportunities were coming, which is already something very good. But I also took it and was like, okay, I know that I can still bring something to the project, so let's keep going. And that's how I basically built the company.
Coming up with an idea and turning it into a viable business must require a very different set of skills. How did your training and experience as a designer help you?
Well, I think designers are very good entrepreneurs because what we learn in design school is that to take care of the users, the clients, to understand what they want and to basically give them what they want. So in terms of creating offers, developing a company, that's always the best approach, I think, to take care of what users want. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is that as a designer, we are trained into basically asking questions. The goal is to answer the right issue. And to answer the right issue, you have to be sure that you know why you're asking this question and why you need to find a solution. And my role as, I will say, a CEO, but also a designer in this company is not to do the products because I'm not able to do that anymore, but to always talk to my team and try to be sure that they answer the good questions to find the right solution. And that I think that's a design approach. And that's especially very interesting when designers are not experts. They're experts in nothing, but they are able to talk to basically any kind of job because they have the ability to ask the good questions. As I don't have any competencies that have my team, I have to have this role, just ask questions. I cannot help them answer that, but I need to be sure that they answer the same question, and that's a very design approach.
I read a quote of yours on social media that said, "I believe that being a non-expert helps you to be more creative and find solutions." In fact, you're not a scientist, you're an industrial designer. How has being a non-expert helped you build your company? And who have you surrounded yourself with to make it possible?
Yeah, so today we are 15 people. 2/3 of them are scientists, biologists, electrophysicists, a lot of different specialties, technical specialties. And the other part of it is very pluridisciplinary, communication, design, of course, finance, operations. What I realized is that first, you cannot learn how to build a company and how to do entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is hard, so it's good that you don't know that when you start, because otherwise maybe I would have made that choice. Yeah. But when you hear that you just keep going. And second, I learned what is biotech, and if I knew what was biotech, maybe I wouldn't take the decision either. So that's why I'm saying being a non-expert is cool because you have less barriers. You're also more free on the collaboration that you take, on the people that you work with. So that I think it brought a lot to the company.
The COVID-19 pandemic has triggered a global economic recession. But more positively, it has caused an acceleration of remote working. And as a result, there was a sharp increase in demand for technology. Companies such as Zoom, Amazon, Netflix, and Google saw their revenues peak through the crisis. So it seems that tech giants have emerged from this crisis stronger than ever. But Glowee is still a young company in the sector of biotech. So how has the pandemic affected you?
Yeah, well, I think that the hardest part is that we had the year before COVID was very hard for us because we had an internal financial crisis and stuff, and we had to rebuild the whole team after several months of really struggling. I also had a baby, which was not that easy to handle in the same time, but then we were really starting to rebuild ourselves and reborn from very, very far. And then 2 months after that, the COVID came. So that was the difficult part, is that we struggled so much and we were not ready to struggle 1 year more. We were really going well. So that was the most difficult part. The thing is that the revenues that we generate today, well, I should talk with the past, but was on events, which are not happening anymore, and on the hospitality sector, which is suffering a lot. So that was the 2 commercial developments that we were really building during the whole 2019 year and was starting really, really well at the beginning of 2020. So this had to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's why also the tech companies are not going that bad. It's because unfortunately, we don't live with our revenues. We are dependent from external funding for now. So the fact that we didn't have revenues or not as much as we expected was not, okay, we're going to die. But we had to still find new funding.
Yeah.
So we were lucky last year to get a big funding from the European Commission. That basically saved us and made us really focus on not commercial developments for now, but really product development, research and development in order to create the best product for the cities that we could. That was hard, but that was also a way to focus the company, all the people in the same direction.
Yeah.
So today we are in a good period. We grow. We have the team has doubled in the last few months, so that's cool. But yeah, that's hard. And the thing that we think now is that we will never have imagined something like that happen. And we're like, okay, so what's going to happen next that we are not able to imagine? So that's the only thing. But we live with uncertainty. So that's something that we do.
For sure. So what's next for Glowee? What are your goals for the near future?
So the first goal is to succeed in the pilot project in order to prove that another model is possible, and to say to the world that we are here if they want to change the way they use light, and if they want to have a big impact. And the goal then is, of course, to deploy our products, to build a catalog of 3-5 products, and to work on projects that will be symbolic to really give this message of we can change the way we light today.
You mentioned having some setbacks and challenging moments as you've launched Glowee. How did you confront those negative opinions and keep moving forward?
Well, I think there has always been negative opinion, especially when you try to change things. And especially when you're a 23-year-old designer running a biotech company that know nothing about it. So there is always be this person. So I try to not listen to them and try to focus on the other ones that gives good feedback. The good thing with Glowee, and we were lucky about that, is that we always had this kind of visibility in the media. And so a lot of feedbacks from citizens, from communities, from the press. And that's also what's feed us, like to say that, okay, people want us to change. We have around 800 private investors who invested in the company. So we know that people are counting on us, and that's what basically gives us the strength to do. And when we face a big challenge in terms of company, I try to separate myself between Sandra Rey, the person, and Sandra Rey, the CEO that has responsibilities. And I try to be sure that because my responsibility as a CEO is that the company survives in the best condition, of course, but it has to survive. And so when I took decisions, I need to be aligned with I make this decision, that hard decision, because I need the company to survive. And I'm okay with it as a person.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a lot easier said than done, but it's an important thing to keep in mind. So it is clear that you are deep in the research and development phase, which means there are many steps ahead before bioluminescence becomes a viable global lighting solution, but you're on the right path. Let's fast forward 100 years. We are in 2121. How would you like cities to have transformed by then?
Our goal would be that bioluminescence is not just a weird thing that scientists are doing in the lab, but just the obvious solution. When you talk about lighting, we don't tend to say that bioluminescence will replace all kind of lighting on the planet. And I think that's not the good approach when you're talking about the environment, not have this radical approach of trying to find a miracle solution that will basically change everything. So I'm not thinking on replacing everything, but saying that every place where bioluminescence is a good solution and is the best one, that it's just an evidence and it has become a standard on the market.
No, but that's understandable. You have to, at one hand, be optimistic and planning for the future you want, but at the same time, realistic that this technology is not going to serve every single need that we have, because they're diverse and lighting is a global need. But I understand definitely having that mentality of going for where it's the best fit and where it can have the most impact.
Yeah, and what I would love is that basically anyone will be able to grow his own bioluminescent bacteria and to use it for a lot of different purposes that will really be a different approach and step. But maybe it will happen. Maybe not in 100 years, but maybe 1,000. I don't know.
Okay, not in 2121, but in 3021.
Wow, that'd be so cool to like grow your own light inside your house. Wow, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. In terms of thinking of the future, though, particularly in Paris, where you operate and where you're working with already Rambouillet, which is not too far outside of Paris, we are called here the City of Lights. Do you think Paris could become the city of biological lights?
Yes, of course it could. To be honest, Paris is not the easiest city because when you want to change everything, it's easier for us to work on brand new projects like new eco neighborhoods, big renovation projects and stuff. And Paris is kind of like fixed. I don't know. So that's not the first city where you're going to see all bioluminescence. But for sure, it should become the city of biological lighting. And I think that will be amazing that we managed to really change the whole city like Paris to give the good message.
Maybe one day light the Eiffel Tower with bioluminescence.
Yeah, that's the dream. Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra, for sharing your expertise with us. You've had quite a successful journey so far, and we hope it's going to keep going that way. To conclude this first episode of Her Voice, we wanted to ask you if you could share with us one piece of advice on finding your voice.
Well, it's just trust your gut. Like when you have passion, then you will manage to do things. So just do it. But you need passion to do what you want to do because, of course, it's hard, it's long. You need to be patient. So, just trust what you have inside. And if you convince of something, and you're not the only one that you manage to convince other ones also, then just do it.
You've just listened to the first episode of Her Voice, a podcast from The Choice, ESCP Business School's media dedicated to inspiring today and tomorrow's business leaders. The voice you heard today was Sandra Rey, a social entrepreneur, CEO, and founder of Glowee, who may one day light up the Eiffel Tower with bioluminescence. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more women experts, scientists, and CEOs, tune in to the next episodes of Her Voice.